What do a chapel of bones, the body of a saint, the richest silver mines of Middle Ages, poison water, medieval coins, and Argentina have in common? Let's get to know the town of Kutná Hora and find out. Today, we'll explore the region of Bohemia, which is now part of the Czech Republic, but was once an independent kingdom. Leaving the capital, Prague, we will visit a city that is a World Heritage Site and where the most famous attraction is a cemetery. Crossing the Bohemian fields, we arrive in the Czech town of Kutná Hora in about 1 hour and head straight to the cemetery. The story here begins in 1278 when a monk visiting Jerusalem brought back holy soil from Mount Calvary, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, and spread it around the cemetery. And as word spread through the region, the site became a very popular burial site. Then came the Black Plague, which killed 30,000 people here. Then there were wars, and there was no more space. So, to make room, they built a gigantic ossuary. Some 600 years later, this site had accumulated a huge amount of bones and needed to be renovated. That's when the sculptor Franciszek Rynch took advantage of the renovation of the ossuary chapel, and without much money to do anything else, he had an idea that was different, to say the least. Why not use the bones as art and decoration? He organized the bones to decorate the interior of the chapel, creating various objects and ornaments in a rather macabre way. The most striking feature is the chandelier, which is made entirely of human bones, with at least one bone from each part of the human body. It's hard to imagine that's real. They are real bones. The idea here is to convey two messages. One about the transience of human life and the inevitability of death, and the other one about the equality of people. Here are nobles, vassals, warriors, craftsmen, many of whom died more than 800 years ago. And 800 years later, they all end up the same, anonymous bones in a chapel. And right next to the cemetery, there's the Cathedral of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary in Sedlec, which is a World Heritage Site and belongs to the Cistercian Monastery, the first in Bohemia, which is just behind it. It's a cathedral that dates to the 12th century and has passed through many situations up to the present day. In the 15th century, it was burned down, and today it houses the bones of the monks who died defending the cathedral. Years later, it was rebuilt, but then it was abandoned, the monastery became a tobacco factory, and the cathedral a huge warehouse. But later, the church was reconsecrated and renovated, and in 1995, it became a World Heritage Site. One of the most interesting parts is the chapels, where you can see several richly decorated chapels. You can go up to the top floor to get a better view of the cathedral and its pipe organ. Here, you can access the side roofs and discover one of the old secret passages of the church. Legend has it that during the Hussite War, when the church was burned down, several monks escaped death through this passage. Today, there are regular exhibitions of local artists here. At the end is the choir, with a large window that illuminates the altar in the day of equinox. And to match the slightly macabre atmosphere of the other chapel, it houses the bones of Saint Vincent and Saint Felix, who lived in the 2nd century, glued in a wax matrix, which were a gift from Pope Benedict XIV in 1742 to commemorate the 600th anniversary of the cathedral. And it was behind this church, in the Sedlec Monastery, around the year 1140, that a monk working the fields found something that would change the history of the town forever. Silver. And a revolution began in the town, a silver rush that completely changed the fate of Kutná Hora. And it wasn't just any mine, it was the richest silver mine in Europe at that time, bringing great wealth and prestige to the town. 1/3 of all silver in Europe was mined here. In order to be close to the richest, a court was built in the city, which served as a temporary residence for the King of Bohemia, as well as a mining center. The financial center of the Bohemian Kingdom was also transferred to the city, and specifically to this place called the Italian Court, in honor of the workers brought from the Italian peninsula to improve the processing of silver. The city became the second most important city in the Kingdom of Bohemia, after Prague, the capital. A lot of silver left here to buy up the kingdom's wealth, especially in the capital. The money was used to expand and build Prague Castle, to construct various buildings in the capital, to buy up territories, to build new castles, and much more. And the city also became very wealthy, with very elegant houses, like this stone house in the center of town. The walls that had been made of wood were replaced by stone walls, which were soon extended. The walled area was only comparable to the old town of Prague, but not much of it remains today. And in the city, the most characteristic building from this period of economic boom is the Cathedral of Santa Barbara, the patron saint of miners, another World Heritage Site. The building represents the peak of Gothic architecture in Bohemia. Construction began in 1388 and it was completed in 1905, more than 500 years later. The ceiling is a starry vault. It's decorated with the coat of arms of the craftsmen associations of the time. The main altar depicts the Last Supper. Because the church took so long to build, it went through several stages of construction and had several different architects and builders, and also architectural styles with elements of Gothic, Baroque, and Neo-Gothic. It's a church built to impress by the standards of the time, representing the grandeur of the city at the time, and yet its original design was to be twice the size it is today. Since it was a church built with silver revenues, it was expected that it would pay homage to the miners. For example, the sculpture of the miner is placed near the altar so that the parish priest would remember to bless them during the celebrations. At the back of the church, there are frescoes depicting the heyday of silver, such as the minting of coins. What really catches the eye are the huge stained glass windows, in which, in addition to sacred elements, evoke images and scenes from the region. Its nomination as World Heritage Site is certainly well deserved. Leaving the church, you can enjoy a beautiful view of the town and the colors of autumn, which are at their peak. Kutná Hora is now a small town with about 20,000 inhabitants. To continue, we pass through Barbosca Street and has several Baroque statues of saints. Walking through the streets of Kutná Hora, we came to the Silver Museum, which tells the story of the metal that brought great wealth to the town. The silver mined here came in huge quantities and was used to buy many treasures for the Kingdom of Bohemia, and enriched not only the kingdom, but also flowed throughout Europe as payment for goods and services from various other regions. And the main currency here was the Prague groschen, which was minted here in the city and became the main currency of Central Europe during the Middle Ages. And looking out of the window, we can learn a bit more about medieval mining technology. This machine is called trave, a kind of cone-shaped crane driven by animals, which turned a large drum to which ropes were attached and which carried the miners, ores, and suppliers up and down the mines. There used to be several of these in the city, and the mines were very deep, up to 500 meters, the deepest in the world at that time. This machine was powered by 6 pairs of horses and could lower and raise loads up to a ton. And this is an original machine from 16th century. Only some parts have been rebuilt. E aqui, na máquina de mineração, a gente veste a roupa, capacete, para poder entrar na mina. Essa máquina é muito legal. A entrada da mina não é no museu, é um pouquinho perto. Aí você tem que andar pela cidade vestido de mineiro. Mineiro moderno, na verdade, né? Mas os mineiros antigos, eles vestiam branco também, é a cor do mineiro. There are dozens of entrances to the mines in the city because the city was built on top of the mines. We will enter this one, which is part of the Silver Museum. Traditionally, the first thing you do before entering is ask for protection because in the old days it was extremely dangerous and you never knew if you'd come out alive. Praise God. And like a good mine, you have to go down a long way to get the entrance. This mine started around the year 1300 and lasted until around the year 1500. This tourist section is the easiest part of the mine to explore. The lowest part is 1.2 meters high, it's about 4 feet, and 30 centimeters wide, it's about 1 feet. But even though it's easy, you will hit your head on the ceiling several times along the way. And the first recommendation is not to touch the water and the wet parts. The water here is poisoned. Because among the different rocks in the walls, there's a mineral that releases arsenic when it gets wet, which is a powerful poison. É muito estreita essa mina, mas é muito estreita. Dá muito receio.
And here is 120.
Tem que andar de lado nessa parte, que é muito estreita. Aí, abriu agora. And the tunnels were dangerous, not only because they were dark, slippery, and prone to collapse, but also because they lacked oxygen, which could cause the miners death. At the time these mines were being exploited, candles were very expensive, so the miners used a small oil lamp, and that was the only lighting available. An oil lamp and nothing else. In addition to providing a little light, the oil lamps had another function, which was an oxygen sensor. And by the crackling of the fire, they would know if it was safe to be in that part of the mine or not.
We can work here because it's good. We have many oxygen here. Also, in this slide, they're looking for a silver ore. Silver ore in natural form doesn't have shiny color or silver. It's opposite. It's a dark gray, dark brown, or black. And for a Kutná Hora, typically it's black. So they're looking for some black spots, black veins.
Imagine yourself with this lamp, almost in the dark, trying to mine silver. What if the lamp went out and the miners stayed behind, leaving you in the dark? In that case, your only option would be to walk where the wind was blowing to find your way out. Desperation, to say the least. But when the guide turns off the lights completely, you can feel the wind in the direction it's coming from, but it's still very desperate. What if someone didn't come back at the end of the day? In that case, everyone went back to the mine to try to find the lost miner, but it was very difficult to find him properly. To make matters worse, since water could be poisoned, they drank another liquid of which Bohemia was and still is a major producer, beer. Beer was not only made with better water, but the alcohol content killed the microorganisms present and was safe to drink, unlike water. And the mine ends in a lower part of the city and you have to walk back to the museum. The Middle Ages, when the miners left the mines, they have to wait about 1 hour to come back out into the daylight, so their eyes could get used to the light. And they would wait in a tavern and drink beer again. This time probably to relax and forget about the hard life of that time. Esse daqui são direcionadores de vento. Aí o vento bate aqui, esse negócio não se mexe e o vento entra na mina. Muito engenhoso. Achei muito engenhoso. And the silver ores had to be processed in order to become silver and then silver coins. In this water wheel mill, the ore was crushed into smaller particles. They then went through a pyrometallurgical process in this furnace with bellows that was moved by a water wheel so that metallic silver could be extracted from the ore and used. And the silver, already in the metallic form, went to a second furnace to be mixed with a little copper to make it more resistant. The progression contained around 93% silver. It was then cut into metal discs and minted by this worker who struck the coin with a hammer. And the worker was carefully inspected by the king's inspector so that nothing was lost. And you may ask, who inspected the inspector? Well, nobody, because he was trusted by the king. So, as you can imagine, there was a lot of corruption in that position. And to demonstrate the last part of this process, I'm going to mine a coin myself. A metal disc is placed between two dies.
Only one, very, very strong.
And so I mined my Prague Russians directly from the city of their production. In the first decades of the 16th century, Kutná Hora was a very prosperous town with simply inexhaustible wealth. The mines were rich, even though the mines had to go down 500 meters below the surface. But everything changed when America was discovered and much richer and shallower silver mines were found, much richer and easier to explore. And silver flowed into Europe in unprecedented quantities. Some countries in the New World have so much relationship with silver that in one of them in particular, the access to the capital is given by the Rio de la Plata, which means Silver River. The capital of its largest province is called La Plata, translated by the silver, and the name of the country itself alludes to silver. In Latin, silver is argentum, hence the symbol Ag in the periodic table. Thus, Argentina literally means land of silver, and Argentina, along with Peru and Mexico, flooded Europe with the metal in unprecedented quantities. There was so much metal that was a huge drop in the price of silver, and Kutná Hora fell, never to rise again. The price of silver no longer made it worthwhile to explore mines 500 meters deep. The mines still contained silver, but the cost of exploration was too high to make it worthwhile. The golden grooves of the Kingdom of Bohemia was gone. Now, Spain was the one making money from silver. And with the excess silver on the market came inflation. In the Prague Russian, the pride of Kutná Hora is no longer the main currency, since the value of currency at that time was the amount of precious metal in it. It was too light for the price to rise. It had only 3.5 grams of silver. It was replaced by another coin called thaler, weighing 29 grams, whose name is an abbreviation of Joachim Thaler, first minted in the city of Yakimov, also in Bohemia. The thaler or thaler was also another very popular currency throughout Europe, and each country ended up being inspired and having its own version of it. And it was even the currency that inspired the creation of the American dollar. And as a curiosity, when the dollar was created, it adopted the silver standard, and each dollar was equal to 24 grams of silver. In modern times, 24 grams of silver is about $18. And with the end of silver era, Kutná Hora lost its prestige, fame, and power. From being the second most important town in the Kingdom of Bohemia, it became almost unknown until it was declared a World Heritage Site and rediscovered by the world. If you like this kind of content, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of content coming here. Bohemia is now a region of the Czech Republic and makes up 2/3 of its territory. And when we talk about Bohemia, beer comes to mind, which has been very famous since the heyday of the miners. But back then, it wasn't as delicious and pleasant as it is today. It was in another Czech city, Pilsen, that the brewing revolution took place, where beer changed forever. Today, more than 70% of the world's beer are Pilsen style or Pilsner type. In the next video, we will explore the history of beer, get to know Pilsen, and learn a bit more about Bohemia.